Hey, what's going on? My name is Billy Newman. I'm here with Robert Biscarret. How you doing, Robert?
Hey, I'm good.
We are recording episode 2 of the Get Out There podcast, podcast about the outdoors, about outdoor adventure tourism, I guess about travel. I don't know anything else, probably just that we'd want to talk about. But thanks, Robert, for doing this podcast with me today.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, it's been cool, man. But yeah, what's been going on? It's been like
Oh,
a
not a whole lot. It's been a week since we last did this.
Yeah, we were talking about the Lower Rogue stuff on our pilot episode, and that was a crazy
Yeah.
story. I was thinking about that like through the week. I was thinking about that like I just kind of took it as a novelty that you were telling us about that story, but then I was kind of playing it back of like, man, that's a lot of situations, a lot of different moments in that chain of events that seemed like it was going to be pretty tight to get out of. So thanks,
Yeah,
man.
I
Thanks for talking about
think about it every day of my
it.
life.
But yeah, Robert, if you didn't listen to last week's episode, was a raft guide for a number of years on the Rogue River and Lower Rogue River, which is pretty cool, man. I think that's no small task.
Yeah, no, it's a ton of fun, man. It's opened a lot of opportunities up to me, and it's a passion. So
So
it's a win-win.
now that, but I've known you for a while, and I've known that you haven't always been on the river. In fact, I
No,
remember, yeah, I remember like when we'd go out, we had the worst gear. We had like the little Bimart Tahiti that you would inflate with the
dude,
raft and stuff.
those yellow surfboards, and we
And we
just
just we just try get by going down from what like Hogs to Galice or something like that, and we just see that thing taco in the center a few times. But
Well,
yeah,
yeah, it would, or we'd be popping a wheelie because we'd have like a 30 rack in the back, sitting on top of our life jacket.
I remember Jeremy jumping off of his kayak onto the back of my kayak in a rapid to flip it upside, and roll it over. And you think, oh, this is great. This is these are the brilliant river people that would one day guide you down the river. Yeah,
And you wonder how accidents happen.
yeah, it's amazing that they do. But Robert, an avid outdoorsman, has been on the river for a good bit of time, skilled in that. But before that, Robert, I wanted to talk to you about some of the old experience you had learning how to hunt or learning how to do some of those other types of outdoors things. Like like I was thinking about trips that my dad and I did to Eastern Oregon, and I wanted to ask you about these
Yeah.
too. Like because my dad and I think we started going in like I don't know what 2001,
Okay.
2002 or something like that. In that time, and we go out in the early fall. We were just campers, and we just dug that time of year over in that part of the country. But we would always cruise out east of Klamath Falls, east of Lakeview, and we go up into the mountains over there near Warner Rim and Plush and Hart
That's
Mountain.
beautiful.
I dug that area. It was super cool. But so we'd gone out there like a number of times to do like photos and camping and hiking and stuff. But that time of year was also, I think, a big or well, there's a few different seasons. You could probably explain that over time, uh, but there's always like different groups of hunters kind of coming in through that area because it was a big public land out there. I think it was BLM land in that section at least. And I think there was a season for antelope through that area, but I'm not really
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Well, you've probably seen tons of antelope out there.
Yeah, a ton of antelope.
Are you familiar with? I mean, just how incredible their eyesight is.
Not really, no. Do you know?
Oh, okay. I mean, crazy tangent, but I mean, antelope, their eyesight is the equivalent of a 10 power binocular. So, I mean,
What?
imagine you're looking through 10 power binoculars at something. That's what an antelope sees. Um, typically, like when people hunt antelope, um, well, I don't want to say typically and generalize everyone, but I know there are a lot of hunters that will use like radio communication and kind of like use two people, over like the radius of a mile and a half, 2 miles,
Oh, wow.
um, and have somebody go way around and have somebody almost set up, and one person tries to herd them towards um, said hunter.
Oh, like someone
Um,
that's like stationary, or is that like when they get
yeah,
into the ghillie suit kind of thing, where they're like kind of
yeah. I mean, I don't,
camouflaged?
I don't know if they're like, full on sniper status, but I mean, really close. I mean, it's really you just want to stay still and because I mean, they just have such incredible eyesight.
That's amazing. Yeah, I've wondered about that.
Yeah.
We've spotted them out there because in those areas it's so flat. There's contour to the land, but you can see for miles and miles. And as you look out, you can see packs or groups of three or four and sometimes a big pack. I think we saw maybe around 20 move through an area one time,
Yeah,
and you just go, "Oh
yeah.
my
They
gosh!"
they herd up and they cruise, man. Fast.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see, and it was cool too because in the way that the land was, you could see where hundreds of years before the Indian tribes in that area had also been to hunt probably what might have been some of the same game. But
Well, isn't that cool too when you're out there? Um, I mean, you're just like you're coming across all those like obsidian areas where the Indians would sit there and like
yeah, chip.
chip their arrowheads and spearheads and everything.
Yeah, so cool. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really
it's
interesting when
awesome.
you get to kind of reflect on how long people have been in the area, or when you get to see those natural elements still just remain there because nothing's come by to disturb it. Since it's really remote territory that we end up being in a lot of time.
It's amazing. Yeah, you're out there and you're so disconnected from people. I mean, but there's still roads around. And so, I mean, you
It's
see
true,
roads and
yeah.
you just assume there's people everywhere. But it's amazing that you can walk, 100 yards off of a main highway and find these just completely undisturbed obsidian deposits. Where just, 150 years ago, or even longer, there was some, you know, just
Yeah,
I
no,
don't
I
know, some
understand. Yeah,
Indians sitting
some
there chipping arrowheads.
yeah. There's been a handful of areas that I think we've seen. There's a museum in Klamath Falls that my dad and I went to on a trip back. I think it was the Fayetteville Museum. I think it was
Okay.
downtown, but it was this guy back in the I don't know, like 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, probably. Excuse me, not in his age, but the 1920s, 1930s, 1940s. I think for a good portion of his life, what he did all the time was go out to Eastern Oregon, just to all sorts of different places across Oregon and collect obsidian and arrowheads and spear tips and knife tools. And it was the biggest collection of things across like the Columbia River area and like things from the
Wow.
Paiute over in Eastern Oregon and Central Oregon and stuff from Bend in the lakes that were around there. There was like these beautiful piece. Oh, they had one from Nevada that was an opal arrowhead. That was like the most
Whoa.
famous one. Yeah, it was almost like a decorative ceremonial arrowhead, but it
Okay.
but it was like yeah, because it was just such a pretty jewel like kind of arrowhead. But it was like yeah, this opal made arrowhead that came out of Nevada from somewhere. I guess from some opal mine area.
Wow.
Yeah, you think about it, like, wow, that's so cool. But he had some of the most rare pieces in that area. But it was really cool. You could walk through, you could just see all of these different pieces that were collected before the times changed and those things were restricted in collection. But at the time, yeah, it was set up, and now it's just set up into a museum where you can observe a lot of the ancient history and ancient Paleolithic tools. It's cool stuff.
That's great. I'd love to go check that out. We
It's
should take a
cool.
trip out there one of these
We
days.
yeah,
I bet.
actually we should. Yeah, that'd be a fun one to check out. But I wanted to talk to you about like where you guys like used to go hunting, or like where you guys would first go out when you were younger.
Yeah.
Was it over to Eastern Oregon at first, or were you guys more local?
Well, yeah, I was out in the over in the Fort Rock unit, and God, as long as I've been out there, I still can't really explain that the significance of that area, and I'm sure you could probably touch better on that. Um,
Maybe.
but
But for Fort
but
Rock or the
yeah, yeah, Fort Rock.
Fort
Um,
Rock is really cool. What is that area? That's like I think it's in like the Deschutes area. It's east.
Not quite. It's like okay, so yeah, you would head south of like of boy, what is that? Bend, cruise down through Lapine on 97, and then you cruise down through Chiloquin and out that
Yeah, I
way.
remember
And
Chiloquin and cutting east, or yeah, cutting east then, because I remember coming up on Highway 58. I guess I'd figure,
uh
or that Diamond Lake cutoff. Do you remember that super straight road that cuts
yeah.
past Mount Thielsen? I remember it was just like 30 miles on an absolutely straight road. I was blown away when I first saw it when I was a kid. Which is silly now. It's probably just pretty normal. But I remember, yeah, you get out to Highway 140 and then you take that lower highway that cuts out. And I remember going out there, yeah, going out to Fort Rock first, and then there's like Silver Lake, and then further you go out to
Yeah.
Summer Lake, or you can
hmm
go out to Christmas Valley out in that area. There's a whole bunch of
Uh,
cool little spots out there.
yeah, tons to explore. I mean, just in Oregon, there's so much, and it's so cool because it's just such a vast change of environment,
It
I mean,
completely is. Yeah.
yeah, you come from the West Coast side of Oregon, and everything's kind of green and lush, and then you get out there and you're in that high desert, just sagebrush and just that ground pumice from all that volcanic activity.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a neat area. I have a lot of love for that area.
Oh
It's
yeah, me
beautiful.
too. Yeah, that area's always been really cool and really really close to me. But yeah, Fort Rock is really cool. That's a really interesting geological feature where it looks like a crater almost. Where
Okay.
like if a meteor came down and like kind of punched out a section. Like I was just hearing about was it like or that meteor crater in Arizona where it's that big giant circle. It sort of brings up
Yeah.
that image in your head, but this one's different. It's built like a fortress almost as it was, but what I've understood is that it was uh, sort of like Smith Rock in a way where there was an aquifer and then there was like an
Okay.
active lava flow. And I guess this type of rock came up and created that shape however it was all at one time, and I guess the area around it eroded away, but that area was
Okay.
harder. I don't really know if that's true, if
Yeah,
that
isn't
makes
that
sense.
kind of the same idea as what is that Devil's Tower in like in where is that? Is that like
North Dakota.
Wyoming, North Dakota?
I don't
Yeah.
know actually.
It's
uh
I think you're right, or Wyoming
oh yeah, you
maybe.
that definitely could be true.
But yeah, I think that was kind of the same thing where just like, everything eroded away from it, and what was left was that hardened material.
I remember on
I'm
a
not.
field trip they said that about Table Rock over in Medford
Oh,
too.
I was just gonna say that, but I'm just kind of talking out of my ass. I don't really know what I'm actually
No, I
saying.
remember. I see. I don't know if that. I don't know, but I'm not a geologist. But I remember that on the field trip in seventh grade, they said that the Rogue River's erosion through the area is what created, or that waterway of erosion is what created much of that valley there, which is interesting. I was wondering
Wow.
about that because the Rogue River was from Mount Mazama. I was wondering if the Rogue River would the Rogue River have existed in the same channel before Mount Mazama would have blown and become Crater Lake?
Uh, I don't. So it comes from Boundary Springs, which is just off the left, or the left, off the west side of Crater Lake,
Okay.
um, about 7 miles or so. Um, but I mean, I've gotten like a little bit of a geology lesson from a couple people down there since I've been in the canyon,
Yeah, I wanted to
and
hear your perspective.
actually I got a book called like The Portrait of the Rogue, which is really kind of a neat read, especially if you're from around the area. But one of the excerpts in there talks about how the coastal range, um, like the coast used to be over near the Blue Mountains and the Wallowas.
I've
Like
heard that.
that's where the coast was. You'd walk out there to your little steamboat and go trolling for crabs. Um,
Wow.
just just a couple million years ago.
No,
Um,
I've heard that that was the case. I saw an animation one time that sped up time by a million years a second, but you could see the old coast being, I guess, what would be kind of the remnant of the Rocky Mountain plate that kind of comes down from Canada where the Wallowas are, and it would be that sort of section. And then it showed these clumps of different land masses sort of landing into ours. But isn't there a subduction zone, like some of the stuff that causes all the trouble for earthquakes down in California? And there's sort of similar
yeah.
stuff up here where yeah, it was a couple different land or types of landmass that came together.
Well, God, can you imagine? I mean, this area had to be such like a geographical hotspot when these tectonic shifts and volcanic
Oh my
just
gosh. Yeah.
turmoil was going on. Could you imagine?
I have
This had to
no
be like the
idea.
most inhabitable place. It's got to be like like it would be horrible.
Well, isn't it known as sort of an interesting geological area because of the way the redwood curtain acts or looks as a piece of land? Like I heard that it was just really
Like
mountainous and ridgy because it was kind of, well, I don't know, it was just the nature of that coastal zone that's come in was like a really rocky, kind of lumpy, crinkled piece of land that was coming in. But it was like unusual for the rest of the area around the United States. It doesn't have that type of land formation. But I don't really know anything about it. We should talk to
I
Tyler.
believe it.
He's got
Yeah, we
a
should ask Tyler.
he's got a degree At least he's taking classes in this subject, so that probably be better.
Yeah.
Well, I remember going up on a drive with my cousin Lauren. We'll get back to the Rogue and the Mazama stuff in a second. I remember going on
Yeah.
a drive with my cousin Lauren. We went up to the top of well, I guess it was one of the top sections of the Siskiyous. We did that road that I think you and I had been on before. That's south of Applegate Lake as you go into California. And you can take that
Yeah.
road a long ways back. It goes up and up and up and up and up that mountain, and you can actually take it all the way through to end out on that Happy Camp Highway at the other end. Maybe what is that? The Klamath River? I don't know what that other.
Man, I didn't we do that drive one time?
We did do that over the
We came from a different direction, but I mean, real
yeah,
similar.
yeah, that
Yeah.
same thing. Yeah. But I remember, I think that might have taken a lower pass, but I remember this one we came up to a point and it was a super high elevation. I looked at it later. It was almost 7,000 feet above sea level when you get to that point. And you look out,
Wow.
you could see, yeah, you could see up to Crater Lake. You could see McLaughlin really well from that spot. But when I looked later to kind of find out some information about the geology of that area, they had mentioned how it was interesting because the reason it was so high is because it was a different piece of land that had kind of come into that area. But it was just weird to think that you're standing on something that was, I guess, another piece or plate of land that came in and then kind of joined the coast or rise in elevation at a time. Like you were saying, how the coast used to be over toward Montana.
Yeah, man, I could trip out on the way mountains and everything were formed just as
Oh
much as I
yeah.
could trip out on space. Like
Yeah, all the time. Man, I wish I knew about it either.
it's like it's I mean, we know so much but still so little, and we can't really wrap our heads around the magnitude of how it all formed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I have absolutely no way of holding in my mind the understanding of more than 1,000 years, probably. I mean, even 1,000 years, it seems like a stretch to kind of imagine truly that much or to keep track of it. But when it goes into million years or 10,000 years or, uh, you know, any number of millions of years in the past before that, when things like this in our landmass would have been formed, it's just like, oh, completely beyond me. But
Yeah.
so what was it? 5,000 years ago, they say Mount Mazama blew. You say that the
Yeah, I
River
think
comes
that
out
was
of
about there.
Boundary Springs. I just remember like all the lava flows and all the the what do they call that? Just the cinder blocks or the well, I guess it would be lava flows where you just see all that basalt kind of piled up for miles and miles and miles around there. I always would have thought that would have diverted some of the water flow, but you said you would talk to some people about the Rogue River and like how its channel was further down.
Y- yeah, this and actually a guy I would love to have on this podcast. His name is Bob Rafalovich, and he's a salty old codge, but
I'd
man,
love to talk to him. That'd be so cool.
oh, he's great, man, and he's actually the guy that founded Rogue Wilderness, who I now
Oh, cool.
work for. Yeah, so that was his business for a number of years, and now it's come full circle, and now he's just an employee at his old business. so,
That's the way
uh,
to go.
but he's been on the river for 42 years. Like the guy knows everyone and everything, and he has such an array of information. And I think maybe getting him on sometime would be really, really great.
That'd be so
But
cool. I'd love
yeah,
to get to talk to a guy like that.
yeah, and he'll go for hours. So I mean, put on a cup of pot of coffee and make yourself comfortable.
Do a three
that
parter.
yeah, exactly. So
So yeah, so what did he know about the lower up when
Oh
the
yeah, sorry. So
no, you're
anyway,
good.
yeah, he's taken down several geologists that all really told him the same thing, and he had told it to me, and you know, it's just Bob hearsay at that point.
Sure.
And until I did a little bit of reading and stuff, and yeah, I read the same thing. I'm just horrible at retaining information the way it was actually displayed, and so anytime I try to
I understand, man.
um, repeat something, it comes out a little skewed.
Oh, that's good.
So I won't do it any justice, but from what I read, that was actually a situation at one point. Um,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, I was always curious, like, 'cause, the way that the coastal range on Oregon works is kind of interesting. Like, we don't see it, much further down. Like in California, I think as you get past Northern California, like past San Francisco, it seems like it's pretty flat up until you get closer to what I thought was part of the Cascades or the Sierras as it comes up
Uh-huh.
in elevation. So it's kind of interesting. Like up here, how we have that coastal range that kind of runs up, probably up into Canada. But well, yeah, kind of nutty stuff. So we were
Yeah.
talking about hunting Eastern Oregon stuff over by Fort Rock. That's where you started when you were younger.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, I guess I mean I can really kind of attribute my whole love of the outdoors to my first time going hunting. You know,
That's cool.
yeah, my dad was always all about getting me out there. I mean, my first hunting trip with him, actually going east, um, I was
How
8 years old.
I was gonna ask, how old were you? Yeah.
Yeah. No, he used to go every year, and I was always so bummed because dad leaves for 2 weeks, and like, and I can't go, and his friends are there, and all the guys are going, and so when I was finally 8, I got to go over there. It's also where I learned to drive. Um,
Oh, nice spot. Nice
yeah.
spot for it. Yeah.
So anyway, got out there, and like I said, such a cool environment, and it gets so cold out there at night. But
Oh yeah, I remember,
um,
especially in the fall like that. It gets so
yeah,
cold at night.
well, I remember always waking up. We'd have the pot of coffee. We would make the pot of coffee the night before, so we just have to heat it up in the morning. And
Nice.
every morning the coffee is just like a block of ice, just a solid block inside your coffee pot. And there was always ice on the inside of the tent, and the what is that? The air mattress is all deflated from the cold air and
Always
everything.
deflated.
And
Always
but then,
deflated.
you get up and it's like 7 degrees. You get up, you're freezing, you're shivering just uncontrollably because you're up at the coldest part of the day, that like
No, like
that
four,
hour,
four
that
and
hour and
five.
15 minutes before sunrise.
Best
And
time. Best time to be out.
well, you know what? That's when you got to do it. Catch the deer when they're up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, Start moving around in the early morning. Um, but yeah, then you get out there, man, and the sun comes out, and then you always dress in layers because by 11:30 you're sweating and you're in a t-shirt and you've got your pants rolled up into shorts,
Oh,
and
I totally
you're
remember that,
like,
especially out there. Yeah, by even 8 a.m. in the summertime, I remember the atmosphere just totally changing from being like in all of my coats, just trying to stay warm a little bit, and then just like stripping
yeah,
down to just yeah, just having the t-shirt on again. But I remember I remember that so much about Eastern Oregon. But so you went out there when you
yeah,
were you were 8 the first time you guys went
yeah,
out. That's
8,
cool. Wow, that's pretty
yeah.
cool.
Um, my dad I had a little 22 that he gave me, 22 rifle, um, and I was allowed to just kind of plink and target practice around camp and stuff. Um, I couldn't pack a real deer rifle, until later. Um, but I remember my first confirmed kill was a blue jay, and my dad was like, "Really, you shot a blue jay?" And so I've still got the picture, but we've always hunted on you eat what you kill,
Oh
and
yeah.
uh, and so I killed this blue jay, and my dad made me skin it out, clean it up, and I ate blue jay breast for dinner.
Wow.
Yeah, that was my first. That was my. It was a trophy jay. It was a pretty good size.
Oh
You
yeah.
know,
Oh yeah. A
I
trophy
just I
Jay.
just didn't have the cash flow to get it mounted at the time. So,
Shoot, you missed out. What was Blue Jay breast like? Was it like chicken?
man, I can barely remember like last week in my life, let alone me being
Let
8.
alone the
So,
flavors of a bird you ate at a camping trip in the cold 20 years
yeah.
ago. Yeah, okay.
Um,
That's
I
pretty
mean, as
fair.
cliche as it sounds, I'm just gonna say, I mean, it was just a white poultry, a white
Yeah.
meated poultry. I mean, I kind of remember it being like a gamey chicken.
That's that's
Um,
what I that's what I'd suspect that it'd be something like that.
yeah, but
Sounds
not even really gamey, just kind of like lean. It wasn't sitting in a little Foster Farms cage
sure.
getting
Yeah,
pumped with steroids.
yeah. So a Blue Jay, then you moved up,
Yeah,
you got a bigger rifle, you're a little older.
yeah.
When's the
When I was
first time you go
13,
out? Yeah.
when I was 13, my grandpa gave me his 30-06. He bought it when he was like 19 years old. It was a model 1903. really cool rifle. Um, I so I started packing my rifle when I was 13, took my hunter safety course, and I went through all of that. Um, Kind of made it official, and then I hunted, and we hunted, and we hunted, and we hunted, and pretty unsuccessfully. So when we were out there in that Fort Rock area, it became victim to a lot of logging.
Oh,
Um,
really?
this is where my dad and his buddies have been going forever. They've been pulling these big, big mule deer out of there. Got all these great stories. Everybody gets a deer every year.
Oh, wow.
I come of age, and there's just not a deer to be found in this area.
No
Um,
way.
yeah,
And that was
there's a
because of
lot
the
of
hunting in the
poaching in
area?
the
Oh,
area.
poaching.
There was a combination. There was a lot of clear cutting and a lot of poaching. And so between those two, a lot of the deer moved out of the area just due to the clear cutting, and a
Sure.
lot of them were killed off with the poaching.
Oh, wow.
Um, so it became pretty scarce there for like for about an 8 year period. And then I guess when I was about 16, we moved over to what's called the Sprague unit, and we've been hunting that area ever since we got
I know the
up
Sprague
over there.
River and I know Sprague Mountain that I've been to. Is that kind of the same area you would say? Is that
Yeah,
like kind of
yeah,
the was it Chiloquin, kind of Chinook and past that area? Is that Sprague?
yeah. There's the Sprague River. Yeah, that's Sprague. And do you know where the Williamson River is?
No, I don't think so actually. Is that
Okay,
is that over
it's
there?
it's yeah, it's right out in that area. There's a big casino off 97, and there's in between in between like Chiloquin and Klamath Falls.
Okay,
But
yeah.
anyway, out there is the Williamson, and we're kind of over in that area now. And it's really beautiful. There's a water wildlife refuge out there,
Oh, I bet that's a cool spot.
um, and just an absolutely gorgeous area. Yeah. So kind of same landscape and everything. And we've been out there for I don't know, 12 years now. And I've actually still never taken a deer out there, as embarrassing as that is.
Oh, really?
Um,
Well, so
yeah,
okay, so
yeah.
go back to when you're 13. You got your 30-06. Is that when you got your first deer that year?
No,
Oh no. Okay, you just
no,
got your gun that
no.
year.
My
You've been
first year
hunting and
was
hunting and hunting.
yeah,
Oh, I'm
yeah.
following you.
People like to assume that you just kind of walk out and just pick a deer and just blast it, and that's like a good day of hunting.
No, I
But
know it's supposed to be by if I understand right, I think it's supposed to be like 1 in 5 times you might get it. Would that say about right?
well, that's the thing too. Yeah, that's very accurate. And the thing is, over there, it's such a short season. I mean, if you come over here to hunt western deer, you're looking at a 30-day season. Over
Wow.
there, you're looking at a 9-day season.
Oh,
And
really?
so, I mean, yeah, and also, the Klamath Indians are in that area, and they have full hunting rights all year long.
Oh,
Um,
interesting. Okay.
so it's frequently hunted. So I mean, the deer understand that people are not a good sign. So they're pretty skittish
That
and
makes
hard to come
sense.
by.
Yeah.
And and mule deer are interesting in the way they kind of sleep and watch. Mule deer, their predator is a cougar. So the way they set up is they like ridges, little kind of areas that they can sit just at the top, and they like to sit with the wind of their back looking down the hill.
Oh,
So what
interesting.
they're doing is they have the view down off this ridge to the flat area below, so they can see anything coming from that way.
Okay.
And they also have the wind at their back, so they're smelling anything coming from behind them on the ridge.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I've heard of types of maneuvers that animals do that seem far more strategic than what lay people might place on an animal to do in the wild like that. But I've heard of some really interesting things like that, like the experience that a buck will have over a doe or over younger male deer at the same time, like how it'll go in and the buck will be the one in a group of deer as a predator comes in and it'll scare the rest of the deer out, but the buck will stay still in that same spot and not move because it's seen that before, or it knows that as it goes out, it's going to expose itself to more danger than whatever was there. But it's just kind of interesting, these little behaviors, like what you're talking about, how they know how to evade their predators that are around them.
Yeah, nature's scary, man. You gotta get smart out there. That would.
Yeah, it seems like it would be pretty cruel otherwise. Um,
Yeah.
that's really cool though. That's interesting. So, is that where you guys try and find them? While you guys are out there in the Sprague area?
Yeah, yeah. And so, we go out there and we beat the brush, and it's so dry out there. You're making so much noise, as quiet as you try to be. Um, and a lot of times, you jump deer, you never they can smell so much better than you can. And these mule deer are called mule deer because of their ears. They have these large ears that are larger than other deer species. And in fact, they're much larger than other deer species.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but so these ears act as like the old man and like the horn, like um
Yeah, yeah,
that's what
definitely.
they're
Okay.
doing. They're just amplifying everything. And they can hear so well. And so, I mean, you're really stalking, you're trying hard. And, so a lot of times you jump them and you just hear them, chunk, 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 going off through the brush.
Oh, it's so
And in
already
that,
moving. Yeah.
and in that pumice, you can kind of feel it like in the ground, it's just kind of like it's got that bassy kind of
Oh, wow.
feel to it. And, yeah, so no, I've never had any luck out there. My luck actually has been over west, which I just kind of started hunting over here again this last 2 years. And these last 2 years, I've been really fortunate.
Now, is that
Done
white-tailed
well.
deer over here, or is that
Blacktail.
blacktail? So what's the difference? So there's
Yeah.
muletail, or there's
Mule
mule
deer.
deer. There's
Yeah.
whitetail. Where do
Yeah.
you find those? Is that the Midwest in Canada,
The
or is
the
that?
whitetail, and I'm not sure how far west they go. I know they're whitetail are like an East Coast deer, or like
Okay.
like Arkansas area
All right,
and
that makes
stuff.
sense. Yeah.
Um, and then you get the blacktail over here on the west, and then the mule deer are more like your Arizona, Utah. They like that deserty
Oh, interesting.
stuff.
Is that why they're a little
Um,
bigger as it comes, or they seem like they're a little bit larger for their environment out there? Is that why, or it seems like they're out in the higher desert area, but you said they were a little bit of a bigger animal? Is that right?
yeah, in fact, I mean, a mule deer is generally going to have about 40 to 50 pounds on a good sized blacktail.
Oh, really? Wow.
They're significantly larger. Yeah, even it's crazy too because after being over there hunting for so many years, you see these big does. They just have a big body on them, and then you come over here and you get a nice buck over here, a nice blacktail on the west side,
Yeah.
and they're smaller than like 85% of the does you see over in Eastern Oregon. It's unreal.
Really? Wow. That's so.
Yeah.
What's it like? Have people in your party had each got one of the deers? Or like I was gonna ask you what's the difference in like the meat or the quality of the way that it tastes when you have it. Does it seem any different, like deer to deer, or is it about the same?
So I can't really find any quality difference between a blacktail and a mule deer, but there's a definite difference between a young deer and an old deer.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Um,
I could. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
um, you know, we first hunt for food. We secondly hunt for a trophy size. I mean, ideally, everybody wants to get that big buck. That one that's
Yeah,
just
absolutely,
like,
sure.
oh, awesome. Um, but when it comes down to it, if you shoot a fork and horn or a spike or something, you're gonna have great meat. When you get into those older bucks that have been out there for 7, 8 years, and that's an old deer, um, the meat's kind of gamey. It's just kind of chewy. Doesn't have really good flavor. Um,
I was gonna. Yeah,
but it's
that's
you
interesting.
season it a little bit more.
Sure, sure. That makes a good bit of sense, though. I've heard that before, and what is their diet? Is it just? I mean,
Uh,
they forage,
the
but
mushrooms, they eat a lot of mushrooms. That's a good way to track them. You
really?
see these spots in the pine needles where they use their hooves and kind of paw up these mushrooms.
Okay.
Um, and so you'll find them in these like shady areas underneath the trees. The pine needles will all be torn back, and they dig through that duff layer on the forest floor there, and they'll find these mushrooms that haven't even surfaced. They smell them through the pine needles and the duff, and in those high moisture areas, they'll pull them out and eat those. Um, I mean, they're grazers, so I mean, whatever they can pick off of,
Yeah,
the
sure.
flora in the area.
Huh. That's pretty interesting. So you and then on the west side of the Cascades, it's black-tailed deer. And where do you guys try and hunt now? You said it was like the last 2 years or so that you've been over here on the west side.
Yeah, and in fact, I've been hunting in the Rogue Siskiyou National Forest the last couple years,
That makes sense. Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, I've been spending a lot of time in that area, kind of getting to know the lay of the land, and beautiful country. But man, that's the difference too. The terrain over here on the west side is so steep,
It's so
and
steep. Yeah.
uh, I mean, over in eastern Oregon, if you knock a deer down, it's going to run, but it's predominantly flat.
Sure.
You can track it, and you can get it back out to a road or something somewhere in a short amount of time if you needed to. But what you find over here is it might run, 600 yards down into a ravine,
Oh man.
and you're spending all day long trying to pack it out,
Ugh.
hundreds of feet
What's
out
that
of a.
work like? Or if that happens, I mean, yeah, you have to you go down and like what's the process even for getting that packed out?
So I always take rope with me, in your pack. You take more than what you need because you never know what you're going to
Sure.
need. One thing is cool. I use one of those river systems where you can make a 3 point pulley out of your rope. It's called a
Oh,
Z
nice.
drag. So you can have a 3-to-1 pull ratio, anchor off a tree. You've got a 100-foot rope. You can take it up 100 feet at a time, and you can do that by yourself pretty easily.
Oh, wow.
Um, Another option is you can just kind of just throw it on your back and hike it out. That's slow going and
That's
pretty
what I've
tiring.
heard. I've heard just like these hell stories of these guys that like shot one in a canyon and they had to like climb down to the canyon and then walk this creek bed out to the road with I think they had a pig or they were
Okay.
like yeah what is it like wild boar or something.
Yeah, boar. Yeah.
But yeah, so they had to pack out this pig like however long down just this terrible, crappy ravine of a creek, and it just sounds like a hell story of like carrying hundreds of pounds on your back to try and get it out. But it just sounds
That's
exhausting.
well, yeah. Okay, so just today I was listening. I was telling you a little bit.
Oh yeah,
I was
tell me about
listening
that.
to that Joe Rogan podcast,
Yeah.
and he was talking about a buddy of his during his podcast, and his buddy hiked in 12 miles on this hunt, right, just by himself. Ends up knocking down this elk out there.
Oh my
So
gosh.
first off, you figure an elk is 900 pounds. I mean, it's a big animal. And so he's 12 miles in, and so he quarters this thing out and debones it and everything, and now he's packing it. He packed it out piece by piece over the
Wow.
course of 4 days.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was just in later on he goes on to say, it was just the most hellacious experience. Like
Yeah, it would have
you
to be. That's so
you're
much
walking a
work.
minimum of 24 miles a day,
Oh my
you
goodness.
know. It just but I mean, but not easy walking. It's not like you got a day pack and your camel pack on.
Yeah.
You've got 80 to 100 pounds of meat on your back
Is there a
with.
system or a technology like there's like technical backpacker backpacks and stuff? Or is there some kind of meat packing like gear that you get for hunting, or is it just all old school?
I don't know. I've never been in that situation. We've always just kind of thrown it on our packs and just gone.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Secure it somehow and just pack it out.
Yeah, I've
So
heard
I don't
I've
know.
heard people will sometimes in those remote situations they'll or at least I needed clarification on this. They'd gut the animal there and they'd I guess like just prep the meat and then they leave the remains as after they cleaned it. Does that make sense? And then they just pack out the meat itself instead of the whole animal.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So when I say deboning, you're removing. I mean, you're cleaning off the rib bones. You're cleaning
Yeah.
everything off, taking all the usable meat, um, and you're essentially just leaving the waste parts, the parts that the crows and the yellow jackets and things like that will come take care of, coyotes and things of that nature.
How long does that
Um,
take to debone, or what is that dressing an animal, or is that different?
there's yeah, there's variations of that. So there's field dressing, which is just a quick, you remove the vitals, um, and you can do what's called caping, which some like trophy hunters will do if they plan on
Okay.
having the animal mounted, and that's where they'll take the entire hide
Yeah.
off of the deer or whatever animal it is. Um, so you can take it down to the carcass like that. Um, we've always just field dressed, removed the vitals, cleaned out the inner cavity, and then pack the deer out like that. And then once we get back to camp, that's when we'll go ahead and actually skin the deer
Sure, that makes sense.
and then remove those pieces.
It seems like
Um,
that's what I've seen before.
yeah, and it really depends on your terrain. I
Oh,
mean,
that makes sense too. Yeah.
how are you going to keep the animal cool? Like, things like that, and all those things play a factor as soon as you do
Sure. Yeah.
that.
That's
So
pretty interesting. So, what's the hunting experiences for you like been over here, over in the Rogue River area?
they've been great. They've been great. I've had some really nice deer. My first one was a young buck, but it was really, really great deer. I mean, we're still eating it. You
Oh
know,
wow.
I mean, I had it made into like I don't know. I got 65 pounds of hamburger out of it and some tenderloin and stuff.
Are you serious? Wow. Is it good? Is
Yeah.
it good for steaks at all, or would you never do that? You would just always go for
Um,
ground.
it's just not really big enough for steaks.
That makes sense. That's what I was
The
thinking.
tenderloins are like little steaks. They're like almost little filet mignon. You get those little bacon wrapped sirloins or something. You get
Sure.
they're about that size, and those are great, man. You pan fry them up with like a little salt and pepper, a little garlic powder,
Oh
and
yeah, I bet that's so
kind of
good.
pan sear them in a little butter. Oh, it's fantastic. Really tender, and that's why they're called the tenderloin.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for sure. So then,
But
most of the time when you're preparing the meat and you're cooking it, are you guys making like burgers? Is that the kind of thing, or what do you guys
yeah, I mean,
make?
we'll make like spaghetti out of it, make
Oh
meat
yeah, definitely.
of it, or I mean, anything that you would use like ground beef or ground turkey for,
Yeah,
um, you can you can use venison the same way, and it cooks very much like beef.
that's
Um,
cool. That's really
yeah,
cool.
and it's great, and you can taste the difference. You can. It's so crazy how you can taste the difference between a farmed animal and a wild animal,
It must be
and
really strange. What do you notice in it?
it's just I don't know.
I know it's kind of, yeah, it's strange to describe what another sense is able to experience, but I was just trying to figure if it, because I've kind of had that experience too, at least like on a smaller scale, or maybe like with eggs, you could say, even if you kind of
Yeah,
notice the difference between like a store bought egg and then one from a farm, like where it's been out picking through bugs and grass and all sorts of different things that the chicken eats and consumes, and then has those nutrients to make the egg from. It's so weird to notice how much of a different flavor, a different consistency that has when you put it in just a pan to eat. It's kind of a
well,
trip.
absolutely. I mean, color, texture, everything. I
Yeah, it's
mean,
like
you've
milky
probably
white versus this like orange, like this dark auburn color, and you're like,
yeah,
that's the same thing. Even the
I
same
know.
animal could have made that.
Makes you wonder, man, what's going in it? What is different about this? Why does this look, taste, and smell different?
It's yeah, it is kind of nuts. But so and you think that just kind of comes from having a natural diet, or kind
It's a
of
natural diet, and it's just a healthy animal.
sure.
It's they're out there and they're moving around and staying active. Um, I mean, they're eating natural foliage off the land. Um,
Yeah. Well, now how
everything.
old are these deer? I was trying to put that in my mind a little bit too about how big and in mass these animals are, but also like how many years they are. Like, I see them grow up pretty quick in my backyard when they kind of run through. And after, I mean, what is it like the one you got? How old would you have said that was?
This, oh, the one that we currently have, he was, I would say, about 2 or 3,
Yeah. Okay.
maybe. Um, I mean, a long life for a deer is 8 or 9 years.
That's what I was thinking. It was
You
like
know,
a dog or something like that. But you also think about
yeah,
the size of the animal, and I guess it's maybe true with horses sometimes too. But these really big animals, these animals that are able to take on a ton of mass and be pretty enormous really quite quickly. But yeah, I was thinking about that. That
yeah.
meat you're saying is what 2 or 3 years old. That's like it's just been grown. It doesn't really seem like it'd be that old at all.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
and and that's, they haven't had that chance to. I mean, they. I'm sorry. Did you say something about? I guess I misunderstood that question.
Oh well, no, not too much of a question, but I just thought it was interesting though. Yeah, like the deer you got is just a couple years old, so or they really don't live very long. These deer, when they come to maturity and then are available to be part of the public trust of food to be shot at. So
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's. I mean, they're really into maturity after their yearling stage. I mean,
yeah,
they're already reproducing. They've already, contributed to the development of more species,
yeah,
more
yeah.
of the species, not just species in
No, it's
general.
but yeah, it's kind of nutty though that yeah they're able to come about so quick. I guess yeah, it's kind of like a dog's timeline too. I just always you get kind of caught up being people centric sometimes where you think like oh man like a 1 year old like that doesn't have much meat on it, but you but you
Yeah,
translate
or
that to a deer.
you put this almost like this human like characteristic with it, and
Yeah, sure.
where you're like, well, I have a child that's 2. Like, what if somebody shot that? And then
It wouldn't know any better.
people,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Let alone
and
that it's their nature to come out of the womb walking. It's like they're kind of different than we are, I guess.
well, yeah, man. I mean, they come out and they're just like, let's get something to eat.
Yeah, let's
They're
go.
already
We're
standing up.
we're
Like,
already at it. I've only got
should
24
should we
months
just
left.
climb? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I gotta
Let's
start
climb.
walking right away. I can't wait around. Like these human babies, I gotta go now.
God, you ever think about that? Like how terrible we are as people.
Oh yeah, like
Like how did
underskilled,
we
yeah.
ever survive? Like who was the
It's
first person that survived nature? I mean, like we go out with nice like Gore-Tex and waterproof boots and stuff, and you get out in the elements on like a 40-degree day, or let's say like a 35-degree day, and it's raining. It's kind of like that sleet, the wind's
yeah,
blowing, and
it
it's
is
nasty, man.
bad. Yeah.
You're like, I mean, I've been in some situations, and I'm smart about being outdoors, where you're thinking, like, I got to get out of here
Oh yeah, it's like
soon.
this is too much exposure. This is weird. Yeah, I've had that a
How do
couple
you,
times too, in heat and cold, and then you're like, oh, it's like a weird signal your body gives you, like,
yeah,
oh no, too much, too much.
how do you put like a newborn, like the first baby? Like, how do you put the first baby out there for like the first, I don't know,
The
man,
first
like
life, yeah. Oh, well,
this,
after I was reflecting on this, it's been 1 year since we went to Hawaii Marina, and that was the
okay.
first time I was in an island atmosphere, a tropical climate. And then you think it dawns on you all of a sudden, like, oh, people didn't get born in North America. It's cold up there. Like people,
Oh, yeah.
people grew where monkeys grow, or people grew where they could grow with no clothes on. That's where
But I mean,
the
even,
population. But yeah, no, 40,000 years ago, when the first uh, I don't know, people were coming over the Bering Strait from China or what is that part of Asia, coming over into America, and you think
yeah.
like just cruising through Kamchatka and Alaska and down in through British Columbia into Oregon, and then settling all the way down to the southern tip of South America, and you think, man, they like walked that.
God,
Ah,
and not only that, like, I, I mean, I love this area now.
Oh yeah.
You know, I love this area. This will always be home. But I don't know, man. If I'm coming over the Pangea Land Bridge or something, and I'm walking into Oregon in the winter, I'm
Oh,
just gonna say,
eesh.
bad bad choice. Let's go somewhere else. This is not my.
Let's keep going south.
this,
Well, we
I
just
think there's more habitable
yeah.
places.
Let's try for just a few more days. Just 2 more months of walking, we could be in Santa Cruz. Let's do it.
Yeah, exactly. We chill on the
Yeah.
boardwalk.
Yeah. Oh man, that would have been rough. Yeah, I don't know how they would have done it back then. It's amazing at all. And it's also amazing too that there are still native people kind of living the way they would have in really harsh conditions or harsh climates kind of all
Oh my
over the world.
god.
So I don't know. It seems like
Well,
people adapt to it.
and you know what's interesting? Like when you're on these like long hunting trips, and you're out in the woods for days on end, or you're out on a fishing trip or something.
Right.
It gives you such an appreciation for what life would have been like back then. First off,
Oh, absolutely.
you haven't showered in several days. You've gotten to that point where you're like, man, I need to clean up. And then, you're cold, you're a little hungrier than you'd normally be. And then the thing that gets me is any little cut. I mean, you nick your knuckle on something, and
Oh,
that's just something here you go, yeah, whatever.
no,
Um,
I totally understand what you're talking
but yeah, I mean, infection, it happens so quickly.
about. Yeah,
And
way
it's
quickly out there.
and that's a big time deal when you don't have access to any medicine or any way to really clean that wound.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, God, our survival rate must have been horrible,
Ugh. Ugh.
just horrible back then.
Yeah, we should count our lucky stars we were born this century.
God,
It's way easier. We just get to podcast in our houses. And then like
I
what
know.
200 years ago on this spot, this was just like jungle land. Or well, I mean, it was just wilderness, and probably the area you live and the area I live right now. There was nothing here. It's like,
Yeah,
how is that? What 1817? Like, yeah, what would have been going on in the Willamette Valley and the Rogue Valley during that time? It's like there's no development out here. So it's just it's amazing that it's just now so recent that we have all of it.
I
Thank
heard there
goodness
were
we
a
do.
lot of like EDM festivals and things like that.
Oh
I
yeah, there's
think
tons. But man,
historically is what was
back in like
going on.
1799, they were those forest raves were going crazy out here.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. Well, thanks, Robert. I really appreciate you doing this podcast, doing episode 2 of the Get Out There podcast. I dig it, man. It's
Yeah,
cool.
absolutely.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
it was
talking to me
great.
about this stuff. I want to get in deeper with you about hunting stuff. I know these podcasts kind of come by and time passes, but I really appreciate
Well,
just hanging out with you, talking. And
no, absolutely. And I was a little rambly tonight,
dude, it was
which,
great. It's fun.
you know,
It's just
yeah,
it's for podcasters.
exactly. They get it. I mean, I think 90% of the podcasts I listen to are nothing but just rambles for like 3 hours. I'm like, wow, that was a great podcast.
Yeah,
It's
I'm all
just-
in for it. But hey, man, we're gonna do a bunch more of them, and it's gonna be pretty cool. But yeah, Robert, I really appreciate it. Thank you for doing the podcast stuff with me.
Absolutely.
It's great, man. So on behalf of Robert Biscarret, my name is Billy Newman, and thank you guys very much for listening to episode 2 of the Get Out There podcast.